Welcome everyone to the battle between Grandmaster Wei Yi versus China and Arjun Erigaisi at the FIDE World Cup 2025. There you have the handshake. It is a very important clash, and some say that this is like a virtual finals of the tournament because Arjun and Wei Yi are the two strongest players left in the fray. Arjun with an elo of 2769, Wei Yi with an elo of 2752, and they will be pitted against each other in this quarterfinals. Their two classical games ended in draws. Arjun did have a chance in the second one but couldn't capitalize on it, and now in the tie breaks, well, Wei Yi is such a super solid player, so difficult to beat him, but at the same time Arjun also very strong. And there we have the chief guest there, Jayant Chaudhary, who is a minister of India. He is the skill and development minister and skill development and entrepreneurship minister of India, and he makes the first move, and now the players are ready. Handshake 15 plus 10 and off we go. Wei Yi opens the game with e4. Arjun responds with the French defense. Very interesting. Arjun hasn't played the French here. Will it be a win-over here? Arjun pauses a bit and goes knight f6. e5, gaining space. Knight comes back to d7 and f4. Look at that space in the center. Strikes back with c5. Knight to f3, bishop e7. And this is lesser played than knight c6, but look at this. D takes c5 has been played in only handful of games here. Arjun takes back with the knight, and Wei Yi brings his bishop out to e3. Now you can bring your knight out on c6. He castles first, and Wei Yi now tries to put the attack into motion with h4, a very interesting move. Arjun must get his knight to c6 to keep an eye on the center, but he plays a very slow move a6, and this shouldn't work because white has space, good development, and can jump in now with his knight to g5, and Wei Yi just does exactly that. The main point of this move is that now the attack is brewing. f6, whoa, look at that move. Now queen h5 is super strong, and after h6 you take and queen g6 followed by bishop d3 is a huge attack. So Wei Yi has a big chance here. Also some ideas like bishop c5, queen d3 are always in the air. He takes on f6, maybe not the best move. Rook takes f6, but Arjun still has a huge problems that he has to face. And look at that, queen jumps into h5, immediately threatening a mate. So the opening has worked like a charm for Wei Yi. Arjun is struggling. He goes h6 to kick the knight away, and the knight doesn't have to move because when you take, I take back with the h pawn, opening up my rook. Bishop d4, attacking his rook now. Knight goes to d7, and bishop takes on f6. Maybe Arjun should have played queen f8 to keep the queens on the board, because now the problem is that, okay, firstly bishop f6 might be the important move to make here, but he goes wrong with knight f6. I think he has missed something. Queen f7 check, king, and now you can see there's a fork here. Just the point is you need to get the queen out, and so queen takes f6 becomes a very natural move to think about. He takes it. Wei Yi takes, and Arjun is stunned there. You can see him waiting to make his move. Takes, knight f7 check now. King comes up and knight to d8. Wei Yi calmly making his move there. 5 minutes 23 seconds for, sorry, 9 minutes 23 seconds for Wei Yi. 6 minutes 20 seconds for Arjun. White long castles. Black's position is worse here, that's for sure. f5, I like this move by Arjun to get his bishop to f6. The compensation for black is the bishop here on f6, but white wants to go g4 and open up the position. By the way, g4 is a very powerful move. You could even sacrifice this pawn with a check, just move in king b1, and it should be very, very useful. Rook f1 played, b5, gaining more space on the queen side and threatening b4 when the knight has no real good squares to go to. So knight b1 would be the right move. a3 played, which is a nice one. Bishop to b7, just moving the bishop away, and now g4 seems to be the right way to continue according to me, and Wei Yi does exactly that. g4, Arjun in big trouble here. He is clearly worse. Gets the rook to d8, wants to play maybe d4 in the center, so taking the pawn makes sense. He takes, pawn takes f5, and now bishop h5. Yep, plays it. Brilliant. And now knight e2, knight g3, trying to get the knight here. d4, Arjun going the center. 2 minutes to both the players now. Game getting sharper. Knight e2. And now d3 played. Very important to take the pawn. cd3. And that should be good. He goes knight g3. A mistake. A huge error. You know, cd3. If you give a check, I go king b1. I mean, this is not something that you would like the rooks to get traded. So knight g3 and now king f6. Arjun is fighting back here. He's fighting back clearly. Wei Yi takes on d3 after a lot of hesitation. Rook takes d3, taken here by Arjun. There was another move, bishop g2 would have been very interesting. Takes, knight takes on d3 with a check. King comes up, king c2, but now Arjun chops off a pawn. Knight takes f4, bishop f3 played. And let's see what Arjun does now. He shouldn't be trading too many pieces. He has some compensation for sure. Now even some material. He has a pawn and a minor piece for a rook. Also his king is active. He has the bishop pair. Knight to h5, offering a trade. Happily Arjun chops it. And bishop g3, he's going after the pawn on h4. Also f4 is coming in. This is great fight back from Arjun Erigaisi after getting a close to lost position out of the opening. Wei Yi goes rook to d1, and Wei Yi has this insane capability of playing his moves so calmly even under time trouble. Bishop to b7, bishop comes back to e2, so that any check on e4 can be met with a block by the bishop. Arjun chops off another pawn. Wei Yi now has to tread carefully. He goes rook d7. And the bishop comes to e4 with a check. Bishop d3, h5 played. And now a check. The king has to move. The king has to move. He goes king g5. And now can you take on a6? Yes, he chops off the pawn. But the h pawn is strong. The f pawn is strong. Arjun moves his bishop here. And now he wants to push. King comes to d2. Attacking the pawn on b5 just in case. Just in case. You can take on d3. But he goes bishop g2. Arjun starts to get ambitious. He wants to play h4, h3, h2, h1. Rook b6, wonderful move by Wei Yi, because after h4 you take the pawn, h3, and now this bishop takes f5. It's a very important move. And now if h2, I have bishop e4, check to the king, and bishop takes g2, stopping the pawn. So very important now to move the king away. Maybe king f4, maybe king f6. Well, he plays king f6, and now bishop takes pawn is kind of forced because Otherwise, black is fine, takes, and now a very difficult endgame here for black because white has two pawns and a rook against two bishops. A4. But all that Arjun has to do is get his pieces back. Good move. Bishop d7. Under insane time trouble. Both the players have to play. Ooh, he was going in there to b3. Now rook b4 played. And Arjun is coming back with the king. Great defense here. A5. You have king d6. King comes to e3. And bishop e1 attacking the rook. Check. King c7. And b4. The pawns are well positioned here. Bishop b5. And now rook to f4 played. Somehow black has managed to create this nice blockade to the white pawns. The question is, can he win those pawns on b4 and a5? King comes to b7. And Wei Yi moves with the rook with a check. Both players being slightly uncertain here because there are certain issues to solve. Like for example, if you go king b7, rook b6 check would be game over. So he finds king d5, a great move Arjun plays. And now rook f4, stopping the king from coming in. And maybe Arjun wants to move the bishop. He goes to c3, bishop c3, rook h4, stopping in. And now bishop c4 is a great move. Yes, he plays it. And now threatening to take here. Check. King goes back to d6. And a very well calculated move here. Because if the rook comes to c5, take on b4. He gives a check. I believe the king can come up. Yes, he comes up. a6 would be met with bishop a6 and bishop b4. So gives another check. King comes back. And Wei Yi goes for the bishop, but now Arjun gets both the pawns, and this is the dream scenario that Arjun was hoping for. It's now a dead draw. King e5, rook versus bishop is quite an easy draw, easy hold here. Generally what you should do is you should move to the color of the corner which is opposite to your bishop with your king. Rook b5, king d5, and Wei Yi takes here, and the game is drawn. A great fight by both the champions there, and with this Arjun should be the happier of the two because he was lost out of the opening and he managed to come back like crazy with some great defensive ideas and now has the white pieces to push in game 2. Meanwhile, Wei Yi of course played really well, and you can see him just calmly putting back his pieces, not disturbed by the result of the game. The players have very little time to unwind, something like 7 to 8 or 10 minutes in hand, and the players are coming back. First in is Arjun, and there is also Wei Yi. Handshake. And how will Arjun fare with the white pieces is the question on everyone's mind, because generally with the white pieces now you can press here. Wei Yi adjusts calmly all his pieces. Arjun too getting ready. I must say that with what happened in the last game, it should definitely sort of spur Arjun to try for more here in this game. especially because he was on the back foot and he managed to save it. He had just solved his pieces. The players are ready. 15 minutes plus 10 seconds increment. Game 2. Let's go. Wei Yi plays, starts the clock. E4 by Arjun. And Wei Yi goes E5, of course. Very solid. Knight to F3. And he plays the Petrov. What could be a better opening than this? D4 played by Arjun. Knight takes. He plays his bishop out, attacking the knight. Pawn to D5. He takes with the knight here. Knight to D7 played. And Arjun goes knight C3. The most common way to play here is to now take on E5, D, but he goes bishop D6. He doesn't take the knight. And Arjun is ready to sack a pawn in the center because the black king is still on E8. Rook E1 can come, so he castles as well. And he goes rook E1 now, holding on to this pawn, this knight. C5 played. Knight takes knight, queen takes, an important move, because if you take with the bishop, I have queen h5 and then a double attack. But with queen, now with queen h5, g6, I can't take on d5 because bishop takes pawn check and I lose my queen. He goes g6. Queen f3 played by Arjun. This is all his preparation here. And now c4 played. It's natural to play bishop f1, but then there's queen f5. But look at this. Oh, bishop h6. If you take here, queen f6 is a forced mate. So rook d8 played to drop the bishop back to f8 in case of queen f6. Bishop goes to e2, so that if queen f5, he has some ideas here. And the idea is to play the move g4. Now don't go running here because queen f6 mate and attack on d8. So queen takes queen, bishop takes. Look at Arjun's time, 16 minutes 13 seconds. Both players seem well prepared. a4 played. He goes bishop f8, offering to trade the bishops. Arjun says, I don't want to take it now. He attacks the rook. The rook moves forward to d7. This is one of the things in the Petrov. No matter how hard white tries, black's position is tough to crack. h4. And now king g7. An important move is bishop f4, keeping an eye on these dark squares. But instead he goes king g2. And now Wei Yi can place bishop to d6. He plays it. And this dark squared bishop is losing out on the key squares to fight for. Rook b1. And Wei Yi plays b6. He's very calm in general, you know. Rook b5, attacking the pawn on d5. Bishop comes back to c7 to stop the move a5. Bishop c1. He wants to reroute his bishop on this long diagonal. h6 played. And bishop d1. And rook to e8. Black is trying to get the rook in. White wants to push f4. Yes, he pushes forward. Rook d8. And now the thing is that although Arjun has a lot of space, he's facing a problem. Black is rerouting his bishop. He's going for a queenside expansion. Rook takes rook. You can see that. The pawn on a4 is attacked. Rook takes, and then suddenly the rook wants to come in. He takes with the rook. And Arjun had to rook a1. That's not a happy move to make, because in a way, if you see, your pawn is weak. Your rook is completely tied up. Bishop d8. What a beautiful move to attack h4 if you move up. Rook e1 is coming. So g5 played by Arjun, but this gives up the f5 square. Where he takes. Maybe he did not have taken. There was pressure there on these pawns. White would have never taken. So not a great exchange. Arjun slowly and steadily trying to claw back, just like he did in game 1. Bishop f5. Fantastic move. Attacking the c2 pawn. And Arjun says, I'm giving you that. Take it. But I'm going after your d5 pawn. The best move could be to trade here, but he takes. And now bishop takes d5. And I totally believe that White has gotten a great deal here to trade c2 for d5. The d pawn is now a passer. Arjun is no longer worse. Bishop d3 protecting the pawn. Now just bring the king in. He goes rook a2, trying to take control of the second rank. Bishop comes to c7, keeping pressure here on the f4 point. Well, Arjun goes king to f2. f6 now. Nice move here by Wei Yi. He wants to take on g5 and open up another f file. So taking on f6 does make sense. But guys, remember, the rook can activate via the h file. That's the problem. He goes bishop e3, blocking the e file, and Wei Yi instantly changes his track, goes to h8. Now bg2, very important to start pushing the central pawns. Pawn actually, not pawns. Yes, bishop g2 played. And rook h4, eyeing this pawn on f4. If you go king g3, there is g5. So Arjun goes d5. And Wei Yi says, thank you for the pawn. Very tricky position. Very tricky. You need to play a5, which is a nice move because the bishop is deflected. He finds it. Beautiful. But the tough part is if black plays b5, which he does. Now first a check, king takes, and then b5. Yes, he plays b5. And now rook b2 is a must for Arjun. He goes rook f2. That's a big mistake. That's a big mistake here by Arjun Erigaisi. Bishop f5 and he is in trouble. The main point here was to go rook b2, a6 and now d6 with the idea of getting the bishop in to chop these pawns. It was not easy. But after b5 he went check and the bishop has dropped back. It's kind of unfortunate. Rook b2. And now a6 played. And Arjun is almost lost now. If the king goes from e6 to d7, it's over. He goes king e6. His king is coming to d7 here. Rook to d2, trying to somehow hope against hope. The problem is he goes bd3. He was not confident about king d7 because, you know, there are threats here through the bishop. Rook f2 played. In fact, bishop b7 would have been much better. But rook f2. If you take here, I have rook f6 check. So the best idea is to go back. Bishop f5. And Wei Yi down to his last 48 seconds. Arjun 45 seconds. What a game this is. Can Arjun survive? Now Wei Yi goes rook h7, stopping the d pawn. Now the tough move here is rook d5, king d4, king c5. That would be just perfect if he's able to find it. It's so difficult because if you go king d4, I can take the pawn. So rook d5 creates like a bridge for the king to enter in here. And once you see it, it's easy. But otherwise, it's not at all easy to do that. Arjun, who has just 20 seconds on the clock, needs to make a move. He goes bishop c6, stopping the idea of rook d7. But what he has missed is rook check, which is a very important move. He gives a check. Now the bishop needs to block on f3. I mean, what else? If you go king d4, I'm just taking the pawn. He goes bishop f3. And now bd3, blocking there. The d6 pawn is falling. Oof. He goes king f4, trying to break through the pin. But Wei Yi can now snatch the pawn on d6. He does exactly that. King takes d6. Bishop to b7 played. And now a very powerful move is b4. He finds it. The rook defends the bishop. So if you take the pawn, there's c3, c2. He takes c3 played. Fantastic chess. Rook d1. And now in comes c2. He finds that as well. Rook c1. And now a very good defensive move here by Wei Yi. Bishop f5. He's planning for rook b3, keeping the rank cut off on the king and rook b1. He tries to block it, but how long can you block this? Rook check is going after the b4 pawn, takes the b4 pawn, and unfortunately Arjun Erigaisi is 2 pawns down. Wei now brings his rook in, king d2. Can Arjun create a miracle? The a6 pawn is hanging, but Wei very, very clinical here. Goes king c5, he's going king b4, he's going to win this. And at the end of the entire struggle, well, black is 2 pawns up. So, king d2, king takes a5, he goes back, and now king b4. The bishop goes back to g8. g5, bishop d5 played, and now g4. Wei just calmly pushing the pawns down the board. Bishop goes back and pushes to g3, and Arjun here can safely resign, but of course it's such a tough tournament to just go back home. It's super difficult, and so through inertia he's playing on. There's some stalemate tricks here with bishop e4. Maybe just king goes back and then g2 is coming, so that doesn't work. So bishop g2, king d3. He's coming in with his king here. King f2. And now g2. And g1, queen is coming. He takes, king takes. Well, Arjun is hoping for something to go wrong here, but it's not going to. King d2 is even making a queen, and look at Arjun there. He is, it feels like, those tournaments where you allow your opponent to mate you until the end because you are hoping for stalemate. Well, more than that, it's like Arjun just saying that this means so much to me. I don't want to go back. I want to make one more move here, and it's a checkmate. Wei Yi goes through to the semi-finals of the FIDE World Cup. Arjun Erigaisi, what a heartbreak for the youngster. He played the tournament so well until this point. He managed to beat Levon Aronian smoothly and convincingly. But now with Wei Yi, he has been eliminated, but look at them. Look at him calmly setting back his pieces and now exiting the World Cup. A big heartbreak, not just for Arjun, but all the Indian fans. But the Chinese fans are rejoicing, and Wei Yi is very, very close to booking a spot in the candidates. Thoroughly deserved by the way he played today. It was just phenomenal play by the youngster.